So this is the new data that suggests that the UK accounted for almost a third of European office investment in the first half of this year. Now, this is above the 5-year average of around 24% and well ahead of France and Germany at around 13% and 12% respectively. Now, of course, this comes from a low base. Overall transactions are still below pre-pandemic levels. But the analyst I spoke to did say that the outlook is looking good, with activity expected to pick up further in the second half. And not only in the UK, but also the likes of Ireland, the Netherlands and Southern Europe as well, even as Germany and France sort of remain in a downward sector as well.
There was a lot of talk over the last 4 years about the return of the office will never happen again. Now, I know that real estate and offices are two separate things. In fact, real estate is the mothership, offices are... The massive developments that we've seen in the City of London, for instance, over the last 30 years, and I mean, my career started in the late 80s, and it's just been unbelievable. And I love the Square Mile; it's just awesome. But are those massive big developments anymore? Do the real estate developers, they feel confident enough to do those, especially when we see what's going on down at Canary Wharf, where there's real concern about overcapacity? Well,
there is, but I think we've just seen the plans for this new development of the Canary Wharf HSBC building, where they will be using it. It does look very exciting.
Chunk out of the top of it,
absolutely,
isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely, and it looks like these kind of futuristic Singapore-style buildings, where they're really incorporating that green element, which is super important these days. From the analysts I spoke to, this is what the tenants are looking for. They also want sort of highly amenitized buildings. They want a multitude of tenants and also different sort of sectors using these buildings, so that they do have that diversification and that they can sort of lure these workers back to the workplace, because that's been one of the sticking points.
Yeah, so getting them to lure workers back to the workplace is probably the hardest part right now, right? Because so many of them have gotten used to a way of doing things. And it's interesting, our background actually has a lot of this office space as well that we keep talking about. But is the alert then just going more widespread, though, do you feel? That it's not just, for example, areas like Canary Wharf as well, or whether the area we're in, but just really spreading out a little bit more? I don't know whether it's be convenience or pricing as well as being a factor.
Well, to some extent, but actually what I was hearing is that it's really these micro locations that do have lots of amenities, sort of proximity to public transport as well. They want it to be convenient for these workers so that they are sort of incentivized to come in. And there also needs to be this cultural capital as well. So I think that's where we see areas like the City of London and the West End doing especially well.
You see the one over the road?
Yes,
that's exactly the kind of building. Look, the one over the road I'm talking about is 81 Newgate. It's next to St Paul's, and it was a blooming awful, I guess, 1960s building. I went up to the top many times because that's where Ben Vervian's office used to be, the boss of BT.
Yeah.
So Cutmore and I used to go in there, and actually, I think when I was eating meat, we had bacon sandwiches with Ben Vervian one day, talking about stuff. It was really interesting. I went for various CEOs and so on, but it was awful. It was like really horrible. Now they're building this. I don't want to blow wind up the developers, but it's really exciting. They're talking like the retail spaces, I think there's lots of open plans, rooftop dining terraces. I think that's exactly what you're talking about, isn't it?
Exactly.
This kind of building,
multi-use kind of buildings, so that they're not just dependent on one particular kind of tenant. It is sort of having retail. It is having food and beverage as well.